Hello, my name is Adrienne, and I have three beautiful girls. My little two, we do pre-K and alphabet at home, and then my oldest is in second grade, so I homeschool them, and it's such a blessing to be able to homeschool. But I wanted to introduce myself and kind of share a bit about my story to help you kind of get a better picture of why I'm so passionate about homeschooling in the first place. I did teach in the public school system for 10 years. And I loved the teaching piece. I love seeing students and children just come up with their own conclusions and that whole light bulb moment where they figure things out. I'm just amazed at how each child can approach a situation differently. They bring their own perspective, and I'm just amazed at how God has created our brain in such a way that we can retain information and figure out things on our own, and that a lot of kids can learn things in many different ways through play. So I love the teaching piece. The frustrating thing for me was that I did a majority of my time in middle school, and my classes were high 20s, sometimes 30s. So I couldn't meet my kids where they were. I was in a very challenging area, so I didn't have a lot of support from the families, and there were a lot of gaps in my students' education that were just missing. And because of time and the focus on tests, I wasn't able to stop and help them and fill in those gaps. And it became very frustrating and emotionally draining to the point where I became physically ill because I wasn't able to care for my students in the way that I knew that they needed to be. And it just broke my heart every day. I had students in middle school who weren't able to read words, some longer words. They weren't able to do mental math, and I was supposed to be teaching them these abstract science concepts that they couldn't they couldn't see. So it was very frustrating and hard as a teacher in that situation. So then when our oldest became old enough to go to pre-K, I decided to step down from that teaching position and to homeschool her. And the path of homeschooling is so opposite of what I was used to. It's taken a lot of time for me to unlearn the way that traditional school is and really focus in on the gem and the gift of homeschooling and what it can be. We love to have a flexible schedule. If things come up, we're able to adjust our schedule, and I'm able to tailor the instruction to what she needs and where she is right now without focusing so much on the standards and what the test is, what the next test is. Those have their place, but they shouldn't be the priority in my opinion. It's much more important for her to establish her foundation. I want her to have good mental math. I want her to love to read. I want her to have a joy of learning and not feel so frustrated all the time like so many of my students did. So my real focus for her is to just instill a love of learning, because we are always learning. We should always be learning. And a lot of times in a traditional school setting, students are taught specific pieces of information and they may not be shown the full picture. They may just be given little snippets that they need to retain for a test. And then after the test, you move on to the next subject. And it can be very choppy in their understanding. So when they are looking at a bigger problem or trying to figure out and do some problem solving, it becomes very difficult for them. And as a former teacher in the public school system, I just want to pause and make sure that you're not reading into this the wrong way. I love teachers, and I still have friends who are teachers, and I just applaud them for their efforts. I just personally feel that homeschooling is the best choice for my family and for many students who are able to. Unfortunately, not every family feels that way, but for those of you who do, I just want you to know that that is my heart. I want to support you. I want to give you resources. I want to be there for you when you have questions or concerns or you're frustrated. And I just want to leave you with this last thought. On my toughest homeschool days, I always remind this to myself. Even on my worst homeschool day, it's still better than my child's best day in public education, because they have me one-on-one. Even if it's only an hour a day, that's still way more than they would have because of the class sizes and just all of the logistics of a public school system. So if you are wanting the best education for your child and you're able to stay home with them, homeschool is the best way to go. And it can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, especially if you don't have experience in teaching. I always say it's actually better if you don't, because then you don't have to unlearn all the things that I did. But there's lots of resources out there that I found because I was a teacher that I would love to share with my families. And we belong to a community that meets once a week for 24 weeks. So we have great relationships and time that we spend together with memorization and different activities that we do. So if you would like to know more about homeschooling in general or the specific program that we use, keep reading on the page. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, there should be a little button that says click here for a meeting, and you can schedule a call with me if you'd like to just talk some things out. I would love to help you on this journey.